I'm going to do a video. This helps explain our progressive tax system. Why do people who work 2 or more jobs typically receive a nasty tax surprise when they complete their tax returns? Why does this happen? There's 2 reasons. One, we live in a progressive tax environment. Now, what does that mean, living in a progressive tax environment? Or what is a progressive tax environment? A progressive tax environment is one where, as your taxable income rises, the percentage of that income taken as tax also rises. Contrast that to a flat tax system. Let's say we live in a flat tax system where the rate is 20%. Whatever you earn, whatever your taxable income is, 20% is taken as tax. As your income rises, your tax bill will rise, but the 20% rate will stay the same. We don't live in that environment. As your taxable income rises, the rate rises. So that's number one. Number two, companies are responsible to remit tax on your behalf based on your salary, not on your taxable income. Okay, so I'm going to go through an example here. Here's the example. Bob works at one job and earns $60,000. Jim works at 2 jobs and earns $30,000 at each. So at the end of the year, both have $60,000 of taxable income. Both have the same taxable income. Therefore, both will end up paying the same amount of tax. However, here's the problem, and it is the progressive nature of our tax system that is the problem. Let's go to the calculator. Okay, on $60,000 of taxable income, I'm going to use Ontario as the example, we owe $11,025 in tax. Now what happens if I change this number to $30,000? So taxable income is $30,000. What we owe in Ontario is $3,670. You can see all the other provinces here. So do you see the problem? Tax on $60,000 is significantly more than 2 times tax on $30,000. That is the nature of our progressive tax system. Bob doesn't receive a tax surprise. Why? Bob's company is remitting tax on his $60,000 over the course of the year. So let's say Bob gets paid every 2 weeks. The company would know that Bob will owe $11,025 in tax based on the salary, and if Bob is paid every 2 weeks, well, just take that $11,025 and divide it by 26. That's what the company remits off of Bob's paycheck every 2 weeks. At the end of the year, Bob owes $11,025 and Bob has prepaid roughly around that amount, $11,025. If Bob owes a little more or a little less, that gets worked out when Bob files his tax return. But at the end of the year, Bob does not have much of a tax surprise. Now, Jim, on the other hand, both companies are remitting tax based on Jim's salary of $30,000. Neither company knows about the other company. They may know. If they do know, they don't care. Their responsibility is to remit to the government on Jim's behalf based on Jim's salary at that job. So that's the fundamental nature of the problem, is that tax on $60,000 in this example is significantly more than 2 times tax on $30,000. If we lived in a flat tax environment, this wouldn't be a problem, but we don't. We live in a progressive tax environment. So that's why if you work 2 or more jobs, you will typically receive a nasty tax surprise. Now, at the end of the day, what has happened here? At the end of the day, based on our tax system, you haven't paid enough, or you haven't prepaid enough throughout the year to get you up to the $11,025. So, what can Jim do in this case? There's a few things Jim can do, but ultimately he still owes more tax. Jim could go to his employers, both of them or one of them, and say, I'm not remitting enough tax throughout the year. Can you take more off my check? Now, this isn't optimal. Probably the best course of action for Jim is to, at the beginning of the year, understand or estimate what his taxable income will be at the end of the year, figure out what his tax bill will be on the estimated taxable income. He can use the calculator, determine how much is being withheld and remitted by his companies, and then calculate what the difference is, and then maybe save that amount every paycheck. So in Jim's case, in this example, at the end of the year, he has to write a check to the government of $3,685. He has underpaid throughout the year. I shouldn't say he's underpaid. He has under prepaid throughout the year, and now's the time to pay it. So, look, if you work 2 or more jobs, so many people get the nasty tax surprise. You're not being ripped off. It's just that you have under prepaid throughout the year because each company you work for is responsible only to remit based on your salary at that company. And we live in a progressive tax environment. Thank you for watching.